Hello ladies and gents. In this video I'm going to show you how to create a simple hook joint that you can create using the laser cutter. We'll make the example you see in front of you on the screen. We've got two sets of hook joints here. They both use exactly the same measurements. It's just one is made purely of right angles and the other one has a slightly more aesthetically pleasing curved look to it. So to create this, start by opening Illustrator and creating a canvas. So File, New, and make sure your measurements are set to millimeters, and then make sure that you've entered the size of your canvas. So for me it's 600mm by 400mm. Make sure that the color mode is set to RGB color, not CMYK. So RGB color is what you need, and hit create. With the canvas made, go to the rectangle tool, create a rectangle, any size is fine, and then in the properties panel we'll change the size of that rectangle. So I'm going to use a 50mm wide by 100mm high rectangle, and then with that selected, go to edit, copy, edit, paste, and click on the selection tool and drag this new second rectangle right next to the other one. Make sure that they're perfectly on the same level, so look for that pink intersect line and leave a nice gap in between so we've got room to add the hooks to the second piece. Now before we start making hooks, we're going to create another rectangle, and we're going to make this whatever the width of your material is. So for me it's 2.6mm. That's the thickness of the plywood that I'm using. So 2.6mm by 100mm, so the same size as the rest of the rectangle. And then with Command and Plus, I'm going to zoom in a bit. I'll just reposition that on the screen. And click on the selection tool and drag that right into the center of your first rectangle. Now this is where we're going to create the slots that the hooks go through. So to do that next bit, with that center rectangle selected, go to Object, Path, Split into Grid, and we're going to change the number of rows to 5. Now you can have a different number of rows and change the height of the slots, but I'm going to use 20mm slots. So 100 divided by 5 is 20. So Illustrator does the calculation for me. So 5 rows, click OK, and then click anywhere on the page to deselect all of that. And now click on the individual slots, and we're going to get rid of the ones we don't need. So click on the top one, we don't need that. So hit the delete key on your keyboard. We don't need the middle one, so click that, hit delete. And the bottom one, we don't need that. So hit delete. Now, if we focus on the second piece, the first piece is done. So those two rectangles in the center, those are the slots that the hooks are going to go through. Now we need to make the hooks. We're going to do that by simply clicking on one of the slots and going to Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste. And we're going to change the width of this new rectangle, and it's going to be double the size of the slot, which means that when you push the hook through, it's long enough to actually go through the slot and out the back of the material. So we'll double the size, so 5.2, that's 2.6 multiplied by 2, it's 5.2. So 5.2, and we'll leave the height exactly the same as it is. So we'll just hit enter. And now we're going to take that and we're going to move it up in line with the other slot, and we're going to join it onto, using those intersect lines, we're going to join it onto that second rectangle there. Now we're going to need to, because it's just a tab at the minute, we're going to need to turn this into a hook. So to do that, click on the pen tool and then make sure you've got the center of that tab selected. Click once and then move the cursor down until you see the intersect message pop up and the line joins the bottom of that tab, and then click again. Now you can see when I move the cursor away, it wants to keep drawing a line, and I don't want that. So press the escape key to stop it drawing another line. Now click on that center anchor point again and draw a line across so that it intersects with the larger rectangle, as you can see, and then click your trackpad or your mouse button to finish off that line. Again, it'll want to keep drawing a line, so press the escape key to make sure you don't add anything else. Right, now I'm going to use the selection tool and drag a box around those two pieces. All right, I don't want this larger piece selected, I just want the tab. So drag a box around those. So you can see they're just selected, they're highlighted in blue, and the rest of the rectangle is in black. Now go to Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste. And we're just going to move that out of the way for a moment, right? Now, select that first hook, and with that selected, we're going to move it down by 10 millimeters. And you can see that if I put that next to the slot and I move it down, you can see that intersect line appears. And that's where, when it slots through, it'll go down, it'll line up with the bottom of the slot. So I'm going to just use that intersect line as a guide. There we go. Okay. Add that there. There we go. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the other hook. So line that up, move it along. So you see that intersect line. So they're both perfectly positioned. And if you make a mistake, you can just highlight it again, move it back over, line that up, and use that intersect line as a guide. It can be a bit fiddly sometimes. Oh, I don't want to do that. There we go. Okay, so they're both joined on. Right, so the hooks are almost finished. But obviously there's a piece that we want to get rid of. So you actually have a space for the hook part to go through and over the slot. So click on the selection tool, highlight everything on that second rectangle, including the hooks, and then click on the Shapes Builder tool. Hover your cursor over the center of the bigger rectangle, and then click and hold and move over the hook. So that's highlighted as well. And then let go of your trackpad or mouse button. And it's kind of welded those together, joined them together. And then do that for the second hook. So add that one. And you can see I've got this weird line that's appeared, this diagonal line that's appeared. I don't know why. It doesn't always do that. But if it does, ignore it. It doesn't matter. Just click on the selection tool, click on the background just to deselect everything, and then click on the side of the larger piece and move that to the side. You can see those bits that we don't want. We can just drag a box around those now and we can delete those. And now I can move that back into place. And you can see if I just kind of join these up there. Now when you'd push these hooks through the slot, and the bottom lines up, you see the way they're completely flush. So you need to be careful with your measurements. If you don't need them to be flush, you can kind of put your slots and your hooks wherever you want, as long as they fit and go through one another, it's fine. But the way I've done this here, when you put those through, you push them through and slot them down, everything fits perfectly, right? So just be aware of that. So that's the hook joint with the kind of the right angle hooks. So to make those rounded hooks, this is really simple. All I'm going to do is hit Command and minus and zoom out a little bit. And then with the selection tool, I'm going to drag a box around all of that. Edit, copy, edit, paste. And I'm just going to drag those in below. There we go. Okay, and I'll just scroll down a little bit. Now I'm going to zoom in. So Command and plus. And all I'm going to do to add that rounded part is click on the pen tool. All right, click on the pen tool and click on the top corner of your first hook. And then go down to the bottom of the hook and click a second time, but hold the trackpad or mouse button. Don't let go. And then move the cursor away, and you can see the pen tool starts to give us this curve. And as I move the mouse cursor, I've still got the mouse button down. It's making that curve like different sizes. So just make, something you're happy with, right? So I'm just going to make it like that, right? That's good enough. And then when you're happy with that curve, then you can let go of the mouse button or the trackpad. Now you can see it wants to continue with this curve. So before you do anything else, press the escape key so it doesn't continue. Now go to the selection tool and it will automatically select what you've just created. If it doesn't, for any reason, if you've clicked somewhere else, all you need to do is click back on it and now go to Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste. And all you're going to do is move that curve onto the second hook, like that. Okay, now zoom back out. So for me it's Command and minus on the keyboard. Using the selection tool, make sure that's selected, drag a box around the second piece and its hooks. And again, we're going to use the shape builder tool to click, hold, draw over that piece that we've just added, click, hold, draw over that second piece we've added, and there we go. So if I click on the selection tool again now, and I'll just zoom out so we can admire our work. There we go, you've created your pieces with hook joints. Now finally, for the laser cutter to be able to cut through them, we're going to drag a box around everything. We're going to turn the fill color off, and we're going to turn the stroke color to RGB red. Make sure your stroke size is set to 1 point, and that's it. And now you can save your work. So make sure you save one copy as an Illustrator file. So I'm going to save this in my laser cutting folder, and I'm going to call this hook joints. Make sure you've saved one in Illustrator format so you can come back and make changes later. Illustrator options, just click OK to that, and save another version that you can use on the laser cutter. So change that, we'll keep the name as the same, change that to an SVG, and then click Save. And for SVG options, click OK. And that's it, you've just created hook joints. Very simple. You can make the pieces flush like I have using this technique, or just put the slots and hooks wherever you need them if you don't need the pieces to be completely flush and line up. Okay, that's it. Try it yourself.